Hey guys, it's Leah, and today we're going to be talking about Justice League. So before I get started talking about the film, I want to talk about the Deadpool 2 teaser trailer. Deadpool as Bob Ross. So if you haven't seen that, you need to pause, go watch, then come back, and then comment, because it's amazing. Now, I didn't really have any expectations for Justice League based off of DC's most recent films. I always try to give DC the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, well, remember when Marvel was first starting off? That wasn't that great either. Now look at them, 10 plus years later. So I always try to say that about DC films, but there gets to, a point where I'm just making excuses. So, while Justice League was, leaping bounds over the other recent films, it still wasn't that great. It was just kind of, confusing, all over the place action scenes, expositions that took a century, and just, it kind of seems like they just don't really have a plan. I mean, I know that they do, obviously, but their films don't really reflect it that well. I still think that Wonder Woman has by far been the best. So, I mean, I don't really want to talk crap about DC the whole time, because I still am a DC fan. I still went and saw the movie. So let's just get into it. I mean, did everyone really think that Superman was dead? I also want to talk about that annoying song that they were playing in the beginning of the film. They were just blasting it, and it was so irritating. Yeah, so that was really irritating to me. I still think that the best part of this film was probably Steppenwolf. He was a lot different from the short amount that we know about him from the comics, but I still think that his scenes were really cool, and I was actually really into it, surprisingly. So I really liked that aspect. I kind of wish that there was just a little bit more about him, but, I was very pleased with the villain. So I love the villain, and I also loved when they were giving us the history of the battle between the Atlanteans and the Amazons and the humans and Steppenwolf. And there was a Green Lantern reference in there that I was all for. It was a little weird because I was kind of like, why is a Green Lantern from a different space sector coming to help us? But, I was all for it. I took it. I was glad. I was like, Green Lantern, that was pretty cool. So I feel like maybe that's foreshadowing what's to come, since they purposely put that in there. So that was kind of exciting. That was one part that I really enjoyed. I also want to talk about how dramatic Batman is. And I say this in the most endearing way possible, because that's just who he is. He is dramatic. He's dressed as a bat. No, I sound like Aquaman. But no, I love, comic book Batman. I love animated Batman. But for some reason, I always feel like live-action Batman is just a little lacking. I'm not sure what it is, because I totally think that it just seems that they take all of the pieces of Batman's personality, they put them together, but there's no magic there. It's just kind of like, alright, yeah, I agree that this is a good Batman technically, but I'm not feeling it. I don't know, that's just my little Batman rant. I love that when they resurrect Superman, basically, that we get to see, how much of a badass he really is. I'm not the biggest Superman fan, but I loved seeing him display his power. That was kind of like he put everybody else on the team in check. He could have easily just, you know, boop, and everyone else is dead. I also love how they buried him in his blue suit, which, you know, is pretty much all we saw of Superman in the comics from the 40s through the 60s. I loved that so much. There was also a part when Steppenwolf mentioned that Wonder Woman had the blood of the old gods in her, which kind of made me laugh a little bit. For those of you who don't know, Jack Kirby, who previously worked for Marvel, had this whole idea for like Thor and like Ragnarok, which obviously didn't pan out because now he works for DC, and like he still stuck like his little old gods reference in there, which is kind of funny to me. And another thing that I really enjoyed was Alfred's exploding penguins reference to Batman. I was like, yes, oh my goodness. Like, I do like how they hinted about, you know, other villains and other things that were going on in Gotham and Metropolis. It wasn't just all about this specific villain. I really do like that. But something that really bothered me was like all of the really corny one-liners. They just seemed unnecessary. Like, they would make a joke and then someone like would just make another unnecessary like one-line comment or like a pun, and I was like, I was already laughing until you took it. You just went a step too far. I think that they're really trying to grasp at the comedy that Marvel has learned to intertwine into their action superhero films, but they're just falling a little short, and it's a little irritating. I also want to say I loved the portrayal of Aquaman. Like, it's kind of like they're trying to save Aquaman's image and, like, making him not, like, I don't know why, but people always think that Aquaman is so lame. And I'm like, no, he's not. I love Aquaman. They seem to take his image in Justice League from, like, the 1990s Aquaman, which was pretty cool. I was digging it. I was like, okay, you go, Aquaman. You show him your stuff. So I really liked that. Okay, so I also have like this love-hate relationship between the portrayal of the Flash, like Barry Allen. I love how they decided, they obviously had to distinguish it from the TV series, but of course they're both based from the same comic, so it's kind of hard to do that. I do love how they did kind of what Marvel did with Spider-Man, which at first I was totally opposed to it, but then, you know, I realized, you know, how they made him, like, younger, like the young Spider-Man, the kid Peter Parker. I realized, I think that that was the best choice, and the most true to a lot of the comics. So they kind of did that with Barry Allen. They made him the young Flash. I really enjoyed that. It was kind of like, the Flash, like, getting a kickstart. I love how they put in there his high metabolism. Because that was like references in the comics a lot as well. Sometimes he did get a little annoying though, but I think that that was just supposed to be like his awkward character, so that was fine. You know, Cyborg, going into this film, wasn't really like having it for Cyborg, like, you know, having his origins in, like, Teen Titans and then being introduced into Justice League in, like, 2011, I think. So, I just never really liked that idea. He was a little awkward. Like, yes, Cyborg's supposed to be, like, broody and mysterious, but, like, this Cyborg, like, and I think it's all up to, like, his script. It didn't do him justice. Haha, pun intended. Yeah, it was kind of, he needed, like, something more, something a little better. He just seemed a little like they didn't know what to do with him either. I also want to talk about, like, I was so confused when Superman takes Lois, like, back to the house, and they're, like, crying and standing in the cornfield, and he's like, better go call Mom. Like, presumably to tell her that he's alive and to come see Clark, you know? And then 3 seconds later, in the same scene, the mom just, like, pulls up. I was like, wait a minute. Hold up. Like, who told her? Like, nobody left. Nobody made a phone call. I don't know if that's just me, but that's something that really bothers me, is when, like, films don't, like, I don't know. That just really bothered me. I was like, who told her? Like, Clark just told Lois to go call Mom. They didn't move. It was 3 seconds later and the mom pulls up. Like, did she just have, like, spidey senses? Did she? I mean, I don't know. It just bothered me. I know it's such a small detail, but it irritates me enough that I needed to bring it up. I love that Diana and Bruce were, like, kind of hinting at Justice League 2 towards the end with them presumably buying a headquarters. Not presumably, they obviously were. They were buying, like, the Justice League headquarters. So I kind of enjoyed that. I think DC is learning on how to wrap up their films so that it leaves the audience, like, excited for the upcoming films. That's something that they really lack, I think. And I think that their films often just end very abruptly. And it's kind of like, the end, bye. So this film still ended a little abrupt, but I love that they were starting to catch on to the end of credits scene. I was really excited. You could really tell who all the Marvel fans were in the theater because everyone had left, and it was just me and maybe 6 other people that were still in the theater waiting. And we were disappointed. There was the first end of credits scene is actually really cute. It was kind of like a 1960s homage to, like, the whole Flash versus Superman, who's faster type thing. I really thought it was cute that they put that in there. But let's talk about the real end of credits scene. Like, Lex Luthor breaking loose, Deathstroke, like, is that hinting to, like, you know, what's coming up in the Batman films alone, or is it going to be in another Justice League film? Like, I just thought it was really cool. I was like, oh boy, like, Deathstroke in the building. I was really excited. I thought that it was a pretty decent end of credit scene. Again, it was kind of a little wonky. Like, they were like, okay, let's see how this goes, but I'm very glad that it was there. Alright guys, so my general consensus on Justice League is, I'm not mad. Like, I didn't love it. I didn't have any expectation for it. I've learned that. DC has let me down, like, time after time. But I'm not mad. You know, there's a lot of things that could have been better. I know I just kind of talked about, like, the aspects that I liked. Obviously, Easter egg and spoilers. I just talked about the things that I liked about it, which I think, you know, I need to, like, focus on that more, because if I just start talking about, like, all the things that are wrong, just solely focused on that, I would end up, like, ruining my experience of Justice League and probably not liking it, or being annoyed that I even saw it. I honestly don't want to really see it again, unless it's, like, 2 years from now. Just kidding. Alright, see you next week, guys. Bye.